This question is from Lewis, who asks, Starmer is just one man. Why do the rest of the Labour MPs who know he's in the wrong not stand up to him? And if he doesn't change his ways, which will cost them their seats at the next election, why don't they vote no confidence in his leadership? I think this is a really interesting question and actually ties to something that I was speaking to Ben Walker, our senior data journalist, about recently, in terms of Keir Starmer's really appalling personal ratings in the polls. He told me, and this is his opinion, that Labour can come back from the position that they're in by the next election, but in his view, Starmer can't, and that the sooner Labour tries to get rid of him and replace him with a better leader, the better. George, is there any whispering about that around Westminster at the moment?
Oh, look, I mean, as I often write, there might not be a vacancy, but there's always a contest. So everyone is constantly speculating about who the next leader will be. But I think on that question, there are 2 points worth making to start. I mean, first is that Labour promised an end to chaos, the chaos of the Conservatives having 5 prime ministers in 13 years. And so it would look absurd for them to ditch the guy who won, you know, for all of the woes since a landslide victory. You've got to remember there are a lot of Labour MPs who thought that their party would never be in government again, particularly after having the worst defeat since 1935. And some of them do credit, you know, Starmer and his team with winning them their seats. Yeah. But the big caveat to that is obviously when you're as unpopular as Starmer is and as unpopular as the government are, people are wondering where is this heading? And next May's elections are seen as a key staging post. I mean, elections in Scotland, Wales, and local elections in London and other major cities. You know, if Labour does badly in all of those, if it loses to the SNP for a 5th time, if it loses power in Wales for the first time ever, if it suffers heavy losses to Reform and perhaps the New Left Party, the Greens, Lib Dems, then people will start to ask serious questions. You know, whether things will move that quickly, I think depends on how Starmer responds to this. You know, everyone knows Labour's a less regicidal party than the Conservatives. It's often quite sentimental. But I think one challenge for Starmer is that his project, in a sense, was all about winning. Mm-hmm. And it was, you know, country first, party second. We will not lose touch with the British public again. If you're unpopular, you don't have a huge amount to fall back on. And I don't think he commands the reserves of loyalty that figures such as Tony Blair and Gordon Brown did, who I think people had a clearer sense of what they stood for. So I think, look, to avoid being challenged, and I don't think it would be a direct challenge. I think it would be pressure from within the cabinet, from grandees, and from Starmer himself. I mean, let's not forget, he contemplated resigning after the Hartlepool by-election defeats. So I think that's the circumstances in which he could depart. But I think to avoid that, he needs to do 2 things. You know, first, a serious improvement in the government's ratings, but also a clearer sense of what he stands for and where he's taking the country and the party. So I think if people have that, if they can see the direction you're going, they're more likely to back you. I mean, let's remember David Cameron and George Osborne, very unpopular points and times when people said the Conservatives are going to lose the next election and maybe never win again. And you had the nadir of the omni-shambles budget. They went on to win the first Tory majority since 92. And there are Labour MPs who take a step back and say, when you've got such a volatile electorate, it can work against you, as we've seen since the election, but can also work in your favour in terms of rapid improvement. And optimists think they've got a strong dividing line at the election, which is if it's a choice between Starmer and Nigel Farage, in some of those head-to-head contests, Starmer has a lead. It's worth saying in some of them he doesn't. And, you know, Reform have clearly had a good summer. So I think from September, they really need to demonstrate far more grip and direction than they have to date.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's not really a Starmer base among Labour MPs, really. And they've splintered into all of these groups. We've had the growth group of MPs. They wrote for us recently quite a critical piece. The living standards group we have now. And of course, you have all of the other Socialist campaign group. And so without that base of MPs, obviously it doesn't tie Starmer to a particular ideological direction, but it doesn't bolster his position at all, does it, Will?
No, I mean, if anybody is sort of contemplating getting rid of him, they need to understand that nothing could be a bigger gift for Reform than for Labour to have a sort of chaotic and splenetic leadership contest. What would Nigel Farage say? He would say, Labour and the Conservative Party, they're exactly the same. No one can run the system. These are failed, cantankerous, useless organisations. They can't run the country anymore. And it would just, I think it would really, really, really sink Labour if they changed the leader. Maybe not internally. Maybe there would be a better figure in the cabinet who actually had more ideas about what they wanted the country to be like, and maybe they could get a grip of the civil service in a way that Starmer clearly hasn't. Maybe they can make some decisions a lot faster than Starmer seems to be doing when you talk to people inside the system. But it is a gift for Reform to say they're exactly the same, and I think it would boost them more than it would boost Labour.
And George, who would the potential successors be if there were a contest?
Most Labour MPs take the view, if Starmer were unfortunately to fall under a bus tomorrow, then Angela
Lord.
Rayner would.
What's he doing near a bus?
Can't even run the buses.
I should say, this is the old Westminster phrase, the under the bus candidate.
Yeah.
But Angela Rayner would walk it, if she wants it. Yeah, that's and some of those close to her say, look, she is sincere when she says she doesn't want it. She knows the intense personal strain that job would bring. But Angela Rayner is the clear front runner. She's the most popular cabinet minister among party members after Ed Miliband, and has pulled off the perhaps difficult feat of both being at the top of government, but also maintaining some distance from the government's unpopular decisions. So what are the bills that Rayner's championing? It's the workers' rights bill, it's the renters' rights bill, it's the devolution agenda. All of these are things which are certainly very popular among members, are much more popular among the public than the more difficult decisions that Reeves and others have had to take. The other names who get mentioned, Wes Streeting, because he's one of the government's most adept communicators. He is seen as the sort of Blairite prince across the water, and is seen as very ambitious. I think unlike Angela Rayner, he makes no secret that he would like to be Labour leader one day, and acknowledges that Starmer is someone who isn't afraid of tall poppies, as he puts it. And other leaders would have tried to take Wes Streeting down a peg. And then Andy Burnham gets mentioned again because he's very popular among Labour members and has built his own burnished his own political reputation through his time as Mayor of Manchester.